Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. Be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. The offensive line is undeniably the biggest strength on this New Orleans Saints team. And you could take my word for it, or you could take ESPN.com's word for it. ESPN.com has put out their list. Ben Lindsay did the honors, ranking the rosters of the 32 teams in the NFL. They used the Pro Football Focus database, which assigns a rating to every player, and they compiled the cumulative average. Now, for rookies, they use their college ranking, but that's how they designated the ranking of the teams in the NFL. And so they ranked the entire rosters. I was admittedly very surprised with where New Orleans came in. Number one on the list, the best entire roster in the NFL. And again, this isn't opinion. This is based on a metric. It's just one metric, and it's not that it's the be-all, end-all, but it is an objective metric. And the best roster in the NFL they have is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The defending champs, best roster in the NFL, followed by a team that many might have assumed would have been the best roster in the NFL, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. So Bucks, number one, Chiefs, number two, courtesy of Pro Football Focus as rated here by ESPN.com. 3 is probably going to stun you as well. 3 is a team that has not had a division championship since its current iteration, which came back into the NFL in 1999, and that would be the Cleveland Browns. How about that? 3rd best roster in the entirety of the NFL, the Cleveland Browns, that according to Pro Football Focus. Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins. I mean, incredible when you think about it. Buffalo Bills, 4. New day in the NFL. When you see the Browns and the Bills with the Bucks 1, Chiefs, Browns, Bills, and then Ravens, the 5th best roster in the NFL. You might be thinking the Saints at this point would be coming somewhere along the line. Packers, 6, followed by the Rams at 7, Cowboys, 8. Rounding out the top 10, you got Minnesota at 9, and then the Denver Broncos at 10. Saints not even in the top 10. The Niners, which just a couple of years ago were in the Super Bowl, got hit by the injury bug a year ago. They're at 11. Washington football team, which won the East a year ago, is there at 12. The Tennessee Titans, another playoff team, at 13. You see my point? Like, we're already almost halfway through the NFL, and we haven't even gotten to the Saints. The Colts at 14, almost incredibly. At 15, the Seattle Seahawks. 16, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then finally, at 17, you get to the New Orleans Saints. That is stunning, isn't it? I mean, we have largely had this belief that the Saints have one of the best rosters in the NFL. They just need to answer quarterback. Now, that is a gigantic question, obviously. It is the question. But when you have everything else around them, then it makes that, it gives a little bit of a leeway to Jameis Winston taking over there under center. The biggest strength, Pro Football Focus lists as Armstead, Ramczyk, the league's top returning tackle duo. So because the Saints' bookends at tackle have been so elite, that's the biggest strength, and certainly that takes a ton of pressure off, literally, off of the quarterback who is running the offense. The X factor for 2021 they list as Jameis Winston. That is a no-brainer, obviously. Which Jameis do you get? Is he the turnover-prone Jameis? Is he the 5,000-yard passer, 33 touchdown Jameis? We'll see. But the biggest weakness that they listed was receiving depth behind Michael Thomas. And I have to tell you, for me, this was surprising. And maybe it's because I'm just conditioned watching Sean Payton teams for the last 15 years. Do you remember in 2008, this is going back, but when I remind you of this, it may ring a bell. In 2008, the Saints were playing the Packers on Monday Night Football at the Dome, and Tony Kornheiser made a comment that drew the ire of a lot of Saints fans. I was doing, not this show, but I was doing a sports radio show at the time, and I remember defending Kornheiser when he said this.
His best three receivers, Marcus Colston, Jeremy Shockey, and Reggie Bush, have all missed significant time. Colston missed 5 games, Shockey missed 3, Bush is now missing his 4th game. He's completing passes to guys they find on Bourbon Street on Thursday morning, put in a uniform, and suddenly they're catching touchdowns.
A lot of people were offended by that when Kornheiser said it. But I understood what he meant. Like, the Saints they were minus their top 3 receiving options in that season, and they didn't miss a beat. Like, that came right after Lance Moore had like an 80-yard catch and run for a touchdown. Remember, Lance Moore was an undrafted free agent who was bouncing around practice squads in Cleveland and New Orleans. He was on the Jim Haslett team in 2005, and then Sean Payton got a hold of him in 2006, and boom, 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 Lance Moore became a Saints Hall of Famer. I understand Kornheiser's point. I understood it then. It was complimentary, and he's right. It's not insulting. It wasn't meant to be insulting of the other players. It was meant to be complimentary to Drew Brees and Sean Payton and how they were able to take guys that weren't thought to be NFL stars and turn them into really productive players. When you look at it, I mean, I mentioned Lance Moore. When you look at the Saints' leading receivers under Sean Payton, Marcus Colston, of course, was a 7th-round tight end out of Hofstra who became the greatest receiver in the history of the franchise until they drafted Michael Thomas. Lance Moore was an undrafted free agent, as we mentioned. Jimmy Graham was a tight end who played 1 year of college football as a basketball player, became a Saints leading receiver and an All-Pro. Kenny Stills was a 5th-round pick. Brandon Cooks was the only 1st-round pick on this list that became the leading receiver for the Saints in a given season. I mentioned Michael Thomas was a 2nd-rounder. And last year, Alvin Kamara led the Saints in receiving. He's a running back. So my point is, even when you haven't had elite-level receivers, they've always figured it out in the passing game under Sean Payton. Now, how much of that was Drew Brees? We'll get that answer this year. I just don't worry about the Saints receiving corps. I think the entirety of the NFL is sleeping on Mike Thomas. They have forgotten how much of a freak he was his first few years in the NFL and the season he had 2 years ago when he set the NFL single-season receiving record for catches. A fully healthy Mike Thomas, I'm pumped to see him back. After that, I think you're with the combination of Marquez Callaway and Traquan Smith, Adam Troutman at tight end looking to take a next step this year. Even, look, Deontay Harris last year in the playoff game against the Bears when they needed someone else to step up. He was like 7 for 7 and was a stud in that game. They're going to figure it out. And then, of course, you've got Kamara, who I haven't even mentioned. They're going to figure it out in the passing game because I have a 15-year sample size to say they're going to figure this out in the passing game. For me, it's more going to be, is this defense with so much turnover going to play at a championship level, especially in a division where you've got Tom Brady there. There's obviously a renewed injection of talent and energy into Carolina's offense. And then Atlanta, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, but they go and draft Pitts, and you've still got Calvin Ridley, and you've got tons of talent there in that offense. Can this Saints defense elevate its play despite all of the personnel losses that it's had? That, for me, is the biggest question with the Saints roster. Not who's going to be the number 2 behind Mike Thomas, because they just always figure that out, and they will again this year. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.